Hello and welcome to Dependisplaining, your favorite podcast ever for your true crime, murdery stories and
needs
entertainment. I don't fucking know. I started to go and it fell off onto a cliff.
It had an excellent climax and then we just kind of plateaued.
It just fell hard. I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen. I'm Veronica.
Hi, Veronica.
And we are your friendly neighborhood podcasters on the podcast that you're listening to right now. It's called Dependisplaining. In case you
forgot. Yeah.
So sorry.
No.
Jen, how's your day?
It's good.
Great.
It's good. Yeah. Tiring. I just busy. February is about to be over with and I've just been it's just stuff. Just stuff all the time. And I love it. I like being busy. I like having things to do. But then I also am like overwhelmed because I'm always forgetting what's coming next. Always.
Yes.
Again, my time management skills. I told you guys this already. Really terrible. Horrible. I have a planner. I write things down, but still forget them. So here we are. That's me. I have a problem.
Hello, my name is Problem.
Yeah. I've got 99 of them. Probably more, actually. I'm sure.
I got 99 problems, and they're all reminders on my phone.
It's exactly it. That's 100% it. They're all reminders that I just snooze and then forget about.
Yes. I've been trying to bring in canned goods into the classroom since last week. And I have the reminder on my phone, and I'll remember today. I'll remember to pack up canned goods for the donation. And nope, it's been over a week now, and here we are, me sitting on a bunch of cans in my pantry that I don't need. So, yeah.
It's hard.
Yes, it is. But other things, I just have to have reminders on my phone constantly, like alarms. Be like, I know I'm going to be doing this at this time, so I need to remind myself about that right now. Or else I'm going to forget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I try to do that. I write notes to myself, especially when I'm at work. I always write notes, and I have alarms set for when specials are and different things, but that's about it. That's the extent of that. I just can't, I don't know. My brain just doesn't like to remind me on its own.
You know what? You're doing fine, Jen. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up for it. There's plenty of more things down the road where we're going to screw up really hard, and it's going to be fine.
I will forget.
Yes.
I will forget until the very last minute, or someone messages me and is like, oh, hey, by the way, are you coming to blah, blah, blah? And be like, oh, yep.
Be right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will. Yep. I'll see you in 15 minutes. Oh, my God. I didn't forget. No, of course not.
I know. Right before the holidays, I had an incident like that where we were going to go over to somebody's house and the kids were going to do a gift exchange. And I knew that there was it had been talked about, but I guess I fell off somewhere in the group chat where I missed the part where my kids got assigned their secret Santas. And I showed up to the party empty-handed other than the snacks that I was bringing. And they're like, where's your gift? And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. I missed it. I was like, you guys didn't tell me. And they're like, we did. And I was like, where is it? Because I did not see that message. And somebody had to scroll through days and days of text messages on this group chat to show me. And I was like, well, I'm the asshole. I know I am. And I was like, I have cash. I was like, I have cash. All kids love cash, right? And it was fine. One of my friends bailed me out. She's like, I have a bunch of stuff that I was going to donate. And I was like, okay. She's like, I was like, I seriously have cash. So I did that, but I felt awful. And, there's another incident. I can't remember what it was along the lines of that same thing where I was like, you can't tell me in the group chat, because I'm at work when all this activity is going on and I miss it. Send me a text message when something is significant like that. I felt awful. I still do.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. That's the hard thing with group chats. So too, because they get lost if you're not up on top of them right away. Like you said, yeah, I'm at work. So a lot of the times when I'm in a group chat, things get lost, and I have to literally scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll just to
Yeah.
find where the beginning of the chat from the morning
Yeah.
happened.
It's hours of this chat if they're very active on it that day. And I was like, I can't respond to you guys right now. My mom the other day called me to wish me happy birthday the day after my birthday. And she's my mother. But she was calling me, and I was like, dude, like, I'm at work, I can't pick up. And finally I like picked up, and she's like, hi. And I was like, Mom, I'm at work, like, you know that. She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. And I was like, did you? Did you? It's like, because you called me last week and I told you I was at work. So, but it's all right. It's okay.
Love them.
It's fine. Anyways.
This is Dependisplaining, a true crime podcast where we also tell you about our life and everything that happens.
You don't want to hear about it.
Listen to us babble.
Yeah.
We don't really care if you want to know or not. It's just here.
Yeah.
And it's the entertainment before you get to your murder.
Right.
Okay?
But if you want us to babble about you or with you, or if you have something for us to babble about, you can reach out to us at dependisplaining@gmail.com. Send us your emails. And the emails. Did you hear me? Where'd that come from?
Email.
God.
I love that emails, Jenny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. My southern accent. I'm turning into Kyle. Kyle gets a southern accent every time he's on the phone. I don't know where he gets it from. Anyways, or reach out to us as well on the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter, and rate and subscribe on your favorite listening platforms.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That could be a fun little, if anybody wants to, we could do a little mini segment of babble with the Dependas. Yeah,
Ooh.
You're welcome.
We can give you advice.
Yeah.
On anything.
Or just chat.
Mm-hmm.
Vent, about produce.
Yes, or any other military-related topic. Some sort of complaint, venting, unpopular opinion that you may have. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to hear it now. Send it to me.
Do it. And if you want to be on the podcast too, tell us, because we'll do it.
Yes.
We'll set it up. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Awesome. Do you have anything else to catch us up on, Jen, before we get started? Because
I do not. I am done. I am shutting my trap. I am ready to hear your story. I want to know.
You shut your trap
excited.
when you're talking to me.
Exactly.
Okay.
I shall not, because I will have commentary as you talk, but it's fine.
Yes, you will. Okay. So I will be covering the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. And I got all my resources from Britanica.com, Wikipedia, archive.boston.com, YouTube, and a documentary I found on IMDB that was told by the survivors of this shipwreck.
Ooh.
So
cool.
Come on this journey with me, everybody. Let's go. Ready?
Let's do it.
July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis, a 610-foot heavy cruiser, departs Guam on its way to Leyte for a training exercise. The ship that was once known, and probably still is, as the fastest in its fleet, was proceeding with caution because visibility was not great. But just 15 minutes after midnight, the ship is struck on the starboard side by 2 torpedoes from a Japanese submarine. What followed next was 5 days of struggle for survival and a true test to one's faith. So this ship launched in 1931 during peacetime, but the Navy put it to use for training purposes and was even used as a cruise ship when Roosevelt visited South America on his Good Neighbor campaign, among a few other diplomatic events that he attended. So the USS Indianapolis played a very important role in the Battle of pretty much the Pacific. So most importantly, Tarawa, Kwajalein. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Yap, Ulithi, and Saipan. Fun fact, I used to live on Ulithi Drive when I lived in Guam. Fun fact, people. So it defended the Pacific, and as well, like, it also shot down enemy aircraft as well. So it didn't just defend it, but, well, I mean, yeah, it protected it. So on board the ship on July 30th, 1945, were nearly 1,200 Marines and sailors. These were young men, young, Jen, like 17, 18, 19 years old, like young, right?
Babies.
Babies.
Oh my gosh.
Young, out of boot camp or, training or whatever you would call it back then. They were teens, and they're making like $18 a month, according to these survivors that they interviewed.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, yeah, and these guys joined with the promise of seeing the world. That's how that was the propaganda back then. It was like, see the world, and there was like pretty girls on the posters. So
of course,
they're like, heck yeah. So some of them didn't even have the proper training, and they were expected to learn on the ship. So it was very hands-on. Some of them didn't even know how to swim, and they're like, we're going to put you on the ship in the water.
No. Oh,
yes.
no.
So just weeks before the end of World War II, the ship was actually struck. It was hit by a kamikaze off the coast of Okinawa. So 9 men were killed and about 30 were wounded. It had hit the top side of the ship, and it like dropped down through the deck. Like, it just shot down into the deck, and it detonated the bomb that it was carrying. Like, the aircraft was carrying a bomb, and it dropped down through the deck when it crashed into it, and it detonated it. Killed 9 men, wounded about 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now the ship is damaged, and it's, it had just, it's in the sea right now, because they send it to San Francisco. It departs Okinawa, and they send it to San Francisco for repairs, because that's where the Navy shipyard is at that time. So they get to the Navy shipyard, they fix it, and then they're directed to pick up cargo at Hunters Point. Hunters Point is a Navy shipyard located just southeast of the bay. They picked up this cargo, which was very suspicious. Nobody was told what was in it. Everyone speculated, and there was rumors going around the ship, which was really funny. And they were all really curious, like, what is this? And some of them were like, was it whiskey? Was it like Cadillac parts? And some even joked that it was 20,000 rolls of toilet paper for the captain of the ship. So it's like nobody knew, because it was they had like these 2 big canisters that were just kind of like, oh, these are weird looking canisters, and they were on the bottom of the ship. And then the top of the ship was a really fancy looking crate, like really, really well made wooden crate. And they're like, what's in the crate? Like, that's what it was. Like, what was in the crate? So what they didn't know, the canisters that were on the ship were actually carrying uranium. And what was in the crate was the shell for the little boy. Do you know what that is, little boy?
No.
That was the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima.
Oh,
yeah. So they carried the components from San Francisco to Tinian, where it was delivered. And then from there, they dropped it on Hiroshima just a few weeks later. So they played a large component of that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
So after they drop off the bomb components in Tinian, they proceed to Guam. And then from there, they're on their way to Leyte. But no one had informed them that there is submarines nearby, Japanese submarines. And they were hit by the torpedoes. So the submarine actually sent 6 torpedoes towards the ship, 2 of them striking. The first torpedo tore off the bow of the ship. And then some of the sailors were sleeping outside. It was really hot, obviously, in that area. If anybody is currently there or has ever been there, can remember just the heat and how miserable you can be at night without air conditioning. So the guys slept on the open part of the ship, and some of them remember being like tossed up in the air up to like just like 2 feet up in the air after it hit, and then coming down and seeing a fireball. Some of them were actually on fire. Like one of them mentions how his hair and his eyebrows were completely gone because he like flew into the fireball, like it caught him on fire.
Yeah.
And so the second torpedo hit the aviation gasoline and caught fire, and it burned men alive. So now you have the ship is totally damaged. All communication on the ship was out. There was no way to instruct on what to do. So the captain had no way of communicating to his men what to do. All these guys they're like running for their lives. It's chaos on the ship. Some of them are yelling to get off the boat, to abandon ship. Some of them were trying to save others, and it was just chaos. So some of them began to cut the life jackets free of the ship, because the ship began to roll on its side. Like it had taken on water and it was rolling on its side. So the captain is instructing everyone to abandon ship. But again, he's yelling it among the chaos and like the sound of the explosion and all that. Who can hear him? But he's yelling, and like everyone's yelling, just get off the ship. So they do. Some of them say like they just like walked off the ship because it was like had tilted so much they were able just to like walk off into the water. Some of them had like they jumped straight into the oil that the ship was spilling already. They jumped into the oil. It burned their eyes, rendered them blind for a bit. And then I guess once it like goes down your throat, it makes you throw up right away. And as the ship is going down, the back end of the ship was in the air. Picture it kind of like Titanic. And men were still like popping out from under the water. Like they were, one of the survivors says how the ship was sticking out, and it was just like they were coming out like ants. Like they were floating up to the surface like ants, because there were still men in the ship, inside it. 880 men were left adrift, floating in open water. They think that about 300 men went down with the ship, like still in the ship. And so these 880 men were left adrift, floating in open water. Most of them were badly wounded. Most of the ones that were badly wounded died within like the first few hours. Many of them didn't know how to swim.
Wow.
Like I said.
That's right. Yeah.
They didn't know how to swim, so they were struggling. Some of them said, we learned how to swim that day, or, some of them unfortunately drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. And you think about all the little babies that you just told us about too, that were teens, so brand new, and just itty bitty young guys not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Let alone to be, in for a while and then have to deal with this too. Not something that you're ever really, you can prepare, but I don't feel like you ever really know until it actually happens,
For that moment. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now, some of them, I think there was like 2 life rafts that floated around, and they were able to get their hands on that. Some of them found cargo nets that served as floating devices too, so they hung on to those. Whatever they could find, they would hang on to. Some of them would find every now and then, like food or something, and they would hang on to that too. Like Spam, cans of Spam, stuff like that. They were so confident, though, that a search was going to happen, right? Because they were supposed to be in Tinian within a few hours. And so they're like, someone heard our distress signals. They're going to come find us. Like, they're going to come rescue us. They can't just leave us here. The men that were floating around, they endured dehydration. They suffered burns from the ship, sunburns, and succumbed to their injuries and hypothermia. They were praying for rain because they were so thirsty. They were so thirsty to the point, and so dehydrated to the point where like your tongue will swell from dehydration. Gosh. Yeah, and some of them would take on seawater, which we all know is don't drink seawater. Which it'll just make everything worse. First of all, it's gonna make you sick, and then it just makes it worse because it's salt water. with the salt water, with drinking so much salt water, you go crazy. Like, you start hallucinating things. We'll come back to that. Anyways, so every time a man would go down in the water or, die, someone would try to collect their dog tags. So they had a collection of these dog tags. They tried to stay away from anyone who was bleeding because sharks were starting to circle in schools. Like, in schools, Jen. One of the survivors said it was so bad that he pretty much walked on top of the sharks' backs. Like, on their backs. Like, because there were so many of them. Yeah. They lost 20 men. They lost 20 men just on the first day. Just on the first day to shark attacks. Yeah. And, like,
just
they were
just
just
sharks
plucked out of the water. Huh?
Oh my gosh. From the sharks?
Yeah. Yes. They were just being plucked out of the water. Like, they'd be in a group and you'd just see them go down.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. They first started on the ones that were injured and bleeding. And then when those were gone, they would move on to the ones that were still alive, fighting for their lives. So here's this interesting part, because where is rescue, right? We're all waiting for rescue. The headquarters of Commander Marianas on Guam and of the Commander Philippine Sea Frontier on Leyte kept operations plotting boards. So, like, to see, like, where all the vessels were, like what position the vessels were at that time. When Indianapolis was due to arrive, it was assumed that ships as large as Indianapolis would reach their destination on time, and they had an ETA of 1100. So the ship went down at midnight, just after midnight, and so they were supposed to be in Leyte around this time at 1100, right? So, but it never arrived. It was assumed that the ship would arrive at that destination on time unless reported otherwise. Therefore, their positions were based on predictions and not on reports. So on July 31st, when she should have arrived at Leyte, Indianapolis was removed from the board in the headquarters of Commander Marianas. When it was removed, whoever came in and took that shift was like, oh, okay, it's been removed. That means it arrived. So nobody worried about it. It was like the ship has already arrived. They just assumed they had gone on to its training, which was they were supposed to do training once they arrived in Leyte.
What?
Yeah. So
that's terrible.
Yes. So now in the first official statement, the Navy said the distress calls were keyed by radio operators and possibly were actually transmitted. In the documentary that I saw, they had asked one of the survivors about sending the distress signal, and whoever was in charge of sending the distress signal assured them that they had sent a distress signal, that they had done everything that they were supposed to. They saw it go off. However that works, I don't know. There's some sort of gauge on the ship that shows you if it was sent off or not, and it was. However, declassified records later showed that 3 stations received the signals, but no one acted upon the call. One commander was drunk, another had his men not to disturb him, and a third thought it was a Japanese trap. There was a trap. Yeah, so nobody responded to that. Reminds me a lot of when the Titanic went down. I think it was a similar situation. Like 2 different ships, or like a few different ships that were within 5-mile radius. And I think like it happened like that. They sent out the distress signal. One of them was like, don't bother me. The other one was like, I'm just ignoring everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So at this point, no one knows it went down. Nobody knows it went down. Right? They were expected to arrive. They assumed they arrived. Nobody checked. It's crazy. So now the men that are, again, remember I told you about the saltwater crazy?
Yeah.
So these men are struggling really bad, and they start going saltwater crazy, and they start fighting each other. Some of them like were pulling weapons on other people and like fighting because they're going crazy, and they were killing each other.
Oh no.
Yes, not only that, they're imagining like islands, and they begin to swim away from each other, and they drowned on the way, and some just gave up and killed themselves. They couldn't deal with it. They had been there for 4 days at this time. 4 days they floated just adrift in open water. I mean, they didn't all stay together. They didn't all stay together in a group because it was like 900 men. They were like scattered throughout the ocean. Yeah. So they had seen airplanes go by, but of course they're going to look teeny tiny in the water. No one's going to notice them. However, on this day, on the 4th day, they were seen by an aircraft. Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn was flying around 8,000 feet. Clear day, calm ocean, and he spotted them. He's like, what am I looking at? He didn't know, obviously, that the ship had gone down, but he spotted men in the water, and so he immediately radios all ships nearby and orders them at flank speed to come and rescue these survivors. They were scattered over a 25 square foot mile area. So that's a lot. That's a lot. First to arrive was an amphibious aircraft flown by Lieutenant Commander Robert Adrian Marks. Marks and his flight crew also spotted the survivors, and he had standing orders to not land the aircraft, even though it was like you could land it in the water, and he was told not to. However, he took like a vote from his crew, and they're like, we got to save these people. Like, we got to do something. We can't just fly over them and let them die.
Yeah.
So he landed his plane in the water.
Good.
Yeah. And at this time now, there's 12-foot swells. So the survivors that were close to it start climbing the aircraft for safety, and they can't all fit on the airplane. So what he does, the captain has them all on the wing. He spreads them all out across the wings of the airplane, ties them down with parachutes so they don't fall off the aircraft while, with these 12-foot swells. The ones that were further away from the airplane, they saw the airplane, and so they decided to swim towards it, but some of them drowned on their way because it was just like too much. I mean, 12-foot swells, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about 50 men, it's said about 50 men died trying to get to the airplane for safety. Now, more planes began to fly by and drop cases of water, which busted immediately as soon as they hit the water, which was so disappointing. Some of them would just watch this water fall and it would like bust open, and so they couldn't drink the water. Same thing with like rubber rafts. A lot of them were lost. But they were trying their best, and they were taking precautions when dropping these items so they wouldn't hit the survivors. So now it's getting dark. There are still survivors out there. They can't get to the plane. They can't get on the plane for whatever, because there's so many people on there. So it gets dark, and they see the USS Doyle breaking through the darkness. It has a spotlight. The spotlight was not a good idea at the moment because, there's enemy submarines around. They don't want to call attention to each other. Mm-hmm. But the captain of the ship was like, fuck this, I'm shining my spotlight. Like, I don't care. Like, we need to give these men hope. They need to know that we are here to rescue them. And if we die trying to rescue them, at least we tried that, So they keep the spotlight on. They get men on the ship, as many as they can. And they transfer like the men that were on the airplane to the ship, and they sunk the airplane. I'm not sure why the airplane sunk. I don't know if it just wasn't going to work anymore, or I don't know, but they sunk it. So 5 ships in the area, they started coming in to pick up more survivors. Some of the survivors were covered in oil because when they landed in the oil, so some of them were still covered in oil, and they were getting them on the ships. Some of the men on the ships had to jump off the ship to get these men on the ship that were so weak, and they just couldn't. Like, they had no strength to get on. Some of the survivors are describing what they saw, and they had been in the water for so long that their flesh started to separate.
Ah.
Yeah. Can you imagine just like decomposing flesh on them? Like it was just so soft that it just started to separate. So they had to be really careful when lifting these survivors out of the water to not injure them, because it was like you're peeling their skin off while they're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to be really mindful with that. It was scary. I mean, they were in the water for 5 days. At this point, it's the next day. 5 days, no food, no water, no sleep. Oh my gosh.
I don't know how you would
I can't imagine.
How could you, could you even imagine, like, just floating around? The ocean already freaks me out as it is. Like, just walking into it, being like, sometimes we're like, I can't see what's under me.
It's the unknown, yeah.
I don't want to know. Oh God, could you imagine just like fighting for your life? That terrifies me. I just think
so scary.
Yeah, just thinking about that is so scary. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So the men were transferred on like multiple ships to get them the help they needed. So it was like this ship transferred it to that ship, and that ship transferred it to that ship, and so on to get the help they needed until they got to like a Navy hospital ship. Is that a thing? A hospital ship. A hospital boat. Like I said, they had been scattered all over, and multiple ships rescued the survivors. They were happy to see other survivors. Like they had seen so much loss in the ocean, but they were so happy to see each other. Like, oh my gosh, like you made it. I'm so happy and grateful that you made it. So that must have been a wonderful feeling. Yeah. Of the 880 men that were adrift, only 316 survived. Mm. Yeah. The number of deaths attributed to shark ranges from just a dozen to 150. Jeez. It is still the largest shark casualty known ever in the history. Wow. 150 in just a matter of days. Like I said, in the first day, it was like 20 men that they lost.
Yeah, that's right. You said 20 in one day. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of them were so injured that they died on the way to the hospital or just shortly after arriving. One of the survivors in the documentary that I watched describes pulling a survivor out of the water and realizing his lower half is completely gone.
Oh my God.
Because a shark got him. So, yeah. It was just, it's the scariest thing. So scary. So, now the survivors, once they got to the hospital, they were not allowed to tell anyone of the disaster until it was officially announced by proper chains for the sake of the families back home. Yeah. So some of them had to write letters home like nothing had happened. They couldn't mention where they were. They couldn't mention what was happening. Nothing. It had to be like nothing had happened for this, just to be able, so the people that needed to tell the families of that their loved ones were lost, they didn't want word to get out for that reason. So now while these men are recovering in Guam, they found out that the war was over. With the drop of the Hiroshima bomb just a few weeks later, this caused the surrender of Japan. So they found out while they were in the hospital. It was all over, splashed all over the newspapers. And then in very small print, it informed that the USS Indianapolis had sunk. So it was like this major event and another major event that overshadowed one that was, very important as well.
A pretty big deal, yeah.
Yeah. So when the families were informed, they were told that they were MIA, presumed missing at sea as well, is what they were told the families, instead of saying like, for those that didn't know, that they didn't have remains. It's like MIA, presumed missing at sea.
Yeah.
So now with this incident that happened, there was like a board of inquiry to investigate, to see what happened, where something went wrong. The captain was court-martialed on with two charges. So the first one was that he failed to give proper abandon ship order. But that was cleared because there was no way of him communicating that other than just as loud as he could yell on the ship. So that was cleared. And the other one, the other one was that he failed to zigzag. I guess he was supposed to be sailing the ship in a zigzag pattern, and the zigzag pattern was supposed to avoid a hazard like a torpedo.
Okay.
So now during the trial, they also talked to Captain Hashimoto, which was the captain of the submarine that fired the torpedoes, and he said that zigzagging would have done nothing, would have made no difference. It may have avoided just one torpedo, but he would have locked on with the other. But he sent off 6 torpedoes, so who knows if like he would have even been hit more because he was zigzagging.
That's true, yeah.
So Hashimoto said it didn't make a difference. So again, he was cleared of the charges of failing to order abandoned ship, but Captain McVeigh, I don't think I mentioned his name earlier, McVeigh, was convicted of hazarding his ship by failing to zigzag. The crew was very respectful of the captain. They loved him, they respected him, and they did not blame him for this incident. They just needed somebody responsible, and they blamed it on him. It was just so much easier to blame it on him.
Yeah, easier to blame it on him than to admit that took them 5 days just to start rescuing people by chance of a pilot flying over the water and noticing people in the water.
Yes. So they obviously suffered PTSD upon returning. They turned to alcohol, as most men did in that era. Yeah. They suffered from flashbacks, and almost the majority of them refused to talk about it for decades. They just didn't want to relive it. They just pushed it down and never talked about it. Now, unfortunately, Captain McVeigh committed suicide in 1968 at the age of 70 because he just couldn't deal with the guilt, and people would send him hate mail. Ugh, the ones that lost loved ones blamed him for their loss. They just, and he couldn't live with it anymore, and he committed suicide. Now, one thing that came out of this, in 1996, sixth grade student Hunter Scott began his research on the sinking of Indianapolis for a class history project, and Scott's efforts led to an increase in national publicity, which got the attention of retired congressional lobbyist Michael Monroney, who had been scheduled to be assigned to Indianapolis before she shipped out on her final voyage. So they did have another Indianapolis renamed, another ship that was named as well.
Yeah.
The research that this kid did, it demonstrated through analysis that the tactic of zigzagging would not have spared the Indianapolis from at least, like I said, one torpedo. So this backed up what Hashimoto had originally said during trial. And Captain McVeigh was exonerated of that, and it was put on record. Obviously, a little too late for that, but still. So he was exonerated for the loss of the Indianapolis. Yeah.
At least it's still there. Or it's shown at least now. But
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, one of the survivors on the documentary had wanted to be buried at sea. He said, when I lose my life, I want to be buried at sea with my mates. And so boatswain mate second class Eugene Morgan got his wish. He died of a heart attack in June I'm sorry, I didn't get the year, but he was age 87. So his grandson, machinist mate first class Jason Whitty, was aboard the USS Ohio submarine, and he was able to fulfill his grandfather's wishes by giving him a burial at sea. It's really emotional. I saw the video of it. They're on top of the submarine out at sea, and they give him, a full military funeral. It was beautiful, and he fulfilled his wishes. So it was lovely. And on August 19th, 2017, a search team financed by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen located the wreckage of the sunken cruiser in the Philippine Sea, lying at a depth of approximately 18,000 feet. And on December 20th, 2018, the crew of Indianapolis was collectively awarded a Congressional Gold Medal. The survivors were also awarded a Purple Heart. And that is the story of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis.
What a roller coaster of emotions.
I know. One more thing. So the captain of the USS Indianapolis, the new one, they were going to retire that ship, and he invited the survivors to come watch the decommission of the ship. And I think about 14 only like 14 survivors were able to make it of the 30 that were left. And so that was a special moment for them too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's an awful story.
Yeah.
I can't get over how this was the biggest shark attack ever.
Yeah. That's insane. That's a fear. Grew up.
It is very scary.
My dad would love watching Jaws, so freaking terrified of shark attack. So, oh my God, could you just imagine floating there and all of a sudden someone next to you just see him like just down,
disappear before your eyes? Yes.
Oh my God.
It's that thing of being out in open water and not knowing what's below you.
Yeah.
And if you're, trekking water is exhausting if you don't have anything to hold on to, and having to wait on somebody to rescue you, and you don't know if someone's going to rescue you. You think you do, and planes flying by and no one's stopping. And then the realization later on that it's like when they get, when they finally get rescued, it's like they didn't know about us. They didn't know about us.
I would have been pissed if I was those survivors and that they blamed the captain over all of this, knowing that they sent out the distress signals and then nobody did anything about it.
Yeah.
I would have been pissed. I mean, like, no, guys.
Yeah.
You didn't listen to us.
Yeah. I mean, the captain survived, too.
Yeah.
He survived, obviously, like I said, and then later took his life.
Mm-hmm.
But the courage it takes to be able to stay alive that entire time.
I couldn't imagine. I'd be dead right away. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. No food, no water, no sleep, exhaustion, sunburn, sharks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Saltwater crazy. Your shipmates are going insane.
Yeah, fighting each other.
Fighting each other. Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah. But, this is what I'm here for, to tell you about history. To never forget.
That's insane disasters that happen in our military history. It's crazy. I've heard of the ship, but I just never actually heard about the story. So that was quite fascinating to hear.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There is a movie out there with Nicolas Cage. I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Oh, Nicolas Cage.
Mainly because I didn't want to. But there is one out there. I don't know how factual it is. I mean, it's a movie, so.
Right.
But I highly recommend that documentary on IMDB. It's told by the survivors, which it can't get any more real than that.
No.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you.
There you go, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, crazy.
I know.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm here to induce nightmares. That's my job.
Yeah, I'm probably
never
going to
go in the water.
I'm going to have a nightmare about shark attacks and being stranded in the water. I just know it. It's going to happen now. Great.
My daughter yesterday, we were watching the documentary and she came into the living room and she goes, "What if there's a fire?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "What if there's a fire in the house? What am I going to do with my stuffies?" And I was like, "Girlfriend, if there's a fire, who cares about anything that's in the house? Get yourself out. for safety. And she's like, but I have my stuffies. How will I have my stuffies? And I was like, who cares? Like, fuck your stuffies. Like, nobody cares. You know, we need to keep safe. And she's like, well, can I take one? And I was like, don't you dare stop
Don't
for
you
one
even
stuffy.
dare.
And she's like, what's going to happen? I was like, well, buy new stuff. And she's like, well, what if we don't have any money? I was like, we have insurance. It's okay. We have renter's insurance. But she was so distraught, just crying.
Aww.
And I was like, you need to go to bed. Calm down. And I was like, oh no, my daughter is me. She's me. Thinking about just the craziest things while in bed. It steals my sleep.
Down the rabbit hole. Down the rabbit hole.
Oh my God.
It never ends. Always thinking, always worried.
Always worried. Forever worried.
Forever. It never gets better.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I was a very anxious person before I had kids. Like my anxiety was high. And then when I had kids, I felt more relaxed. But now I only worry about them. Like everything else is fine. They're my anxiety. Like I gave birth to my anxiety.
Yes, you manifested. Your anxiety. There it is now in people form.
I guess in a way it showed me what really matters. Like nothing else matters.
Right.
Like I don't care if you have anxiety about talking to these new people. Worry about those littles. Yeah.
Yep.
Jen, you don't have anxiety.
Oh, I have so much anxiety. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Why come?
I don't know. Where does it come from? I don't know. Who is it about? Everyone. I worry about the lady I talk to, and, you know, I'm super awkward. So every time I talk to people, whether I'm friends with them or not, I always think about, like, oh my God, why did you say that? Oh my God, why would you talk like that? Oh my God, can you just talk normal? Jesus, Jen, come on now. And then, so like, crazy, my children, when they go out and play, and I'm like, God, please just be safe. Like, don't do anything stupid. Don't run across the road in front of a car. Oh my God, like.
Yeah. I get that. I get that too.
It's just, I have anxiety for everything. Oh, yes, I am. Are you kidding me?
You're not.
Do you hear me talk? There's sometimes where words don't come out properly, and I don't know what to say. I'm awkward.
No, you're
it's
not.
Horrible, but not, because I'm just embracing it and trying to be me.
You find your people that embrace it with you.
I am trying to find people.
That's all you need.
Trying.
If you know people that are the type of people Jen would like, email us at dependenceblaining@gmail.com.
Yes, please.
Because she needs people.
Or find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And tell me these people. Show me the people.
We're now taking applications for people.
I need people.
We need
Not
people.
in a creepy way.
I need people too. I need people too. Yeah, no, I need it too. I need someone who understands my sense of humor.
Yeah.
Who won't be offended by it.
Yes.
And who likes to snack and drink. That's all I want. I'm not asking for much, Jen. I found you.
I know. Yeah. I need a person that's just like Veronica.
Yes.
Here. Okay.
Yes. And I need a Jen here.
Yeah. Please.
We're not asking for much.
Somebody help me.
Yeah. Yeah. Jen needs somebody who can bring her out of her shell.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who push her to do things.
Yep.
And accept her the way she is because she's fun. And love on her children. Yeah. Oh, and make fun of David because that's fun.
You, David.
Yeah. And your spouse, if you have a significant other, they have to get along with David.
They have to
understand him. Yeah.
They do. And they have to want to hang out all the time.
And you have to keep tally of how many times David says calm down to Jen.
It's a game, and it's pretty fun to see how many you can get.
Yeah.
Don't take shots, because you will die.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, every time Dave says, calm down to Jen, take a shot.
Joel.
You'll be dead within the hour.
Do it. You'll be on the floor.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, God. All right, people. That's enough of that.
My people.
This is the battery. The battery? No, the babbling.
Our battery's running low. We need to charge.
Jen's battery is running low. It's almost 7 here. That's why I'm like,
oh no.
I got up super early today too. It was a rough day.
Oh no.
I know.
I just snoozed for like 30 minutes.
Oh,
and then I was like, fuck, I have to get up and make bean dip for Kyle. Shit.
I had to make a freaking corn salsa dip for David today. And I was like, damn it, I got so many other things I have to do.
Yeah. Like sleep. And drink my coffee until I have to poop.
Yes. In peace and harmony.
Yeah, that's what I had to do this morning. I was like, I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to do the bean dip because I had everything done. I just needed it to cool down overnight. So I did that, and then I like tweaked my notes for this morning or for today, which didn't do a very good job because you could hear me stumbling through the entire thing. But try it, people. And then I drank my coffee, and then I had to get my kids ready, and I had to get myself ready, and it was chaos. And luckily, everyone was ready on time without me yelling at anybody. So, and then Kyle's like, I forgot my frozen chicken in the freezer. I was like, oh, son of a bitch. So I had to drop it off at the fire station this morning. And then when I got to work, it was downpouring so much. I waited in my car for 5 minutes to see if it would stop. And I was like, I'm going to be late to work. I didn't want to get out of my car. But I just ran across the parking lot. I made it.
Well,
semi-dry.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a Monday. That's what it is. It's a freaking Monday.
It's Monday. And
in our time. In our time right now.
So my kids have labeled all the days of the week. Mondays are always Moody Mondays unless it's the day off. Mm-hmm. And then it's a Mega Monday. Tuesdays are Tiny Tuesdays because the days are shorter for school. Yes. Tiny Tuesday.
I love
Wednesday because Wednesdays I teach at the gym, so it's Where's Mom Wednesdays.
That's adorable.
And Thursdays, I forgot what Thursdays was. Fridays are Fun Friday. Saturdays are snoozy Saturdays. Sundays are, I don't know, I can't remember Sundays, but yeah. Wednesdays are always Where's Mom Wednesdays. So they've labeled all the days of the week. Fun fact, guys. Don't have a life.
No.
Don't have a life.
No. This is it. This is our life. You hear it.
This is my life. Yeah.
You know what our life is. The battery. Speaking of battery, my phone is dying too.
Oh, no.
Everything is just chaos, isn't it? It's just lovely.
All right, Jen. Let's nail this coffin shut then.
Nailing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't forget that you can email us at dependisplaining@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Rate and subscribe. Share with your friends. And hope you have a lovely week. And thanks for sticking it through once again through all of our babbling because here we are again.
Don't go in the water.
Just talking. Yeah. Be careful if you do. Be careful.
Proceed with caution.
Yes. Because, nope, that's not what I want to say.
That's not what I want to say.
Nope. So don't forget that wherever you go,
there you are. Goodbye.